Not even a little bit. Not even a little. If the Chiefs lose to the Giants, I agree with Nick that it is not a literal must-win because you look at the schedule, there's still room for them to, win. Yeah. Like, if they lose to the Giants, they could start 1-5. Could. I mean, they could beat the Ravens, obviously.
One 0-3 team this century
you're
in the playoffs.
Yeah. Look at the rest of the schedule.
But
if they start 1-5.
Hold on. We're doing must-win now. Will on the board if they lose.
No. Yeah. I mean, there's always in sports never know what. No.
Start off with no
I
chance.
am saying it is not on the board. Yeah. First of all, I don't think the Giants are very good. Only coach thinks the Giants are very good. All right. So, secondly, the Chiefs, like Mahomes said, what an opportunity to prove that. Like, I think Kelsey and Mahomes both haven't had great starts to the season. They're coming out hyped up. The defense hasn't been great. They're coming out hyped up. Like, and you can say, well, they've been the last 2 weeks. They've been like, we want to prove something. We facing the team that beat us in the Super Bowl. But this week is going to be different because they're not facing one of the elite teams. All right, you're facing bad teams.
So here's what I'm willing to go a step further. I call this a shave my head game.
No, we don't want you to do that.
Well, you don't have to worry about it.
If the Chiefs are 0-3 and you shave their head, we're not.
Show's pretty
we're in
done.
Trouble?
Your head.
All right.
But come up with something else. I don't know.
Listen,
never take your feet off.
So
your socks off on the plane.
Bro, that's not something I do.
He'd rather shave his head on the airplane than have to keep his socks on. They gotta breathe. My dog's gotta breathe. He said. Your dogs have to breathe. What are you talking about?
Are these guys out of their mind? Just open wanton lying.
That's a lie. That's a total lie.
You didn't say my dogs need to breathe. You're such a bad guy. But here's the thing. We're doing this question. So sometimes we ask a question in the meeting, and we're like, well, that would probably be a boring conversation if we all are in universal agreement. Bruce said no. You guys knew I was going to say no, and I'll give my reasons in a moment. Which makes me think Wilds might be saying yes.
Yes.
But, okay, so here's the thing. Because you are a bit of a mess on this.
I know. I love Mahomes.
No, it's not because you love Mahomes. You yelled at Danny Parkins.
For what?
When he was, before the Eagle game, and he was talking about how it could get bad for Kansas City. And he didn't even say they could lose to the Giants. You assigned him that take, and that's when you were like, I'm worried I'm going to get memed here. You then saw the Chiefs play the team that you think is the best team in football and that you thought was going to blow them out, and it comes down to the final minutes, and you feel worse. Like, I would think you, of anyone on the show, should feel better about the Chiefs after week 2.
Am I the...
Okay. Listen. That's a great... We'll leave that there, actually. For the Kansas City Chiefs, on the board for the Chiefs to lose Russ and the Giants. I know they were saying, like, oh, it's not really a literal must-win. I think it's an absolutely must-win. Like, Brew always talks about the vibes and stuff. Just from a vibe perspective, like, even if it's not a must-win, because, like, technically they can, win all these games, which I don't necessarily even inherently disagree with. If you now go on a 4-game lose streak dating back to the Super Bowl, it would be awful. I mean, it would be like you're now losing to the New York Giants with Russell Wilson. I just think that would be a disaster of epic proportions. Think about it for a few different ways how they could technically lose. I'm not saying they're going to lose. Like, if they lost, I would be blown away. I would be stunned. I'd be shocked. I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is wild. And then in a way, I think it would actually help them in the long run. But that's a different take for a different time. But the ways how they could lose, right? They get blown out. I mean, they get blown out. You're just like, how did the Chiefs just lose by 21 points to Russell Wilson and the New York Giants? Like, this is crazy. Okay. They lose a close game, a 1-score game. Wow, the Chiefs went from being able to win every single 1-score game to being unable to now win any one-score games. They completely lost it. What made them so dangerous and so scary is that anytime the game was close, advantage KC. That is now gone. And then now another way they lose, right now, depending on which side of the close game is, they're either they need to score and then they don't, or Russell Wilson and the New York Giants march down the field and they score to win the game, right? Either direction of it, you're just like, what? How is this happening? You know? Or in one of those crazy dramatic things where the Chiefs are up by like 10 points and there's only 3 minutes to go, and then a whole crazy circus of events happened where Russ leads a touchdown drive and then an onside kick and then another, which is like, it's obviously technically a one-score game, but it just has like it's got a different feel to it, right? You're not like, oh, they lost a one-score game. You're like, how did they blow that lead, right? Just it's a different way to lose from my viewpoint. And you're just like, what is, like any of the ways that the Chiefs could possibly lose this game would be just like, it would be kind of mind-blowing in any way. If they lose a close game, you're like, they were there, but you'd be like, you couldn't win a close game against the New York Giants? Like, what? You got beat by 14 points, by 17 points by Russell Wilson and the New York Giants? Russ threw for 350 yards? Like, what? You couldn't stop the run game at all? Like, what? You couldn't score more than 14 points against the New York Giants? Where Dak Prescott's balling and Jaden Daniels is putting up like, what was it, 27 points or, 20 plus points, whatever it was. I think their score was like 20-6, I forget. Like, what? The Washington Commanders defense was better against the Giants than the Chiefs were, right? Like no, any explanation, you would just be like, whoa, this is rough. And it would be beyond now, because I've defended the Chiefs every step of the way, saying like, they're clearly going to be better when you have Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. Like, of course. And other people are like, they can't run the ball. And I'm like, they'll be able to run the ball when they have a more balanced and smoother offense where you actually have to respect Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Like, that's going to help improve the quality and the versatility of the run game. I don't understand why people are struggling to see that being the case here. But like, still losing to the Giants, whether you have Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice or not, like, you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're Patrick Mahomes, you're Andy Reid, you're Spags, you're Kelsey, you're Chris Jones, like you should be good enough. Like, there's plenty of other teams that don't have Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice, and they still find ways to win games. I understand not being able to beat the Ravens, the Eagles, the Chargers. Like, I understand that, of course, and not being able to even, win at a high rate or just at a high rate. But like, there's plenty of teams that just don't have all those receivers or this or that in imperfect situations. I mean, just look at over the years how the Raiders have pulled off wins against the Chiefs and the Broncos, when they were a mess, how they were able to like come away with a win against the Chiefs. And like, so it's like, we see weird, bizarre wins all the time. So it's just like, you can't just say, well, they lost to the Giants because they were missing Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. And I think Xavier Worthy's playing. I don't know, but right now, I don't know if that's been solidified yet. But like, you can come up with the excuse and the reason of like, yeah, with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, like, I think they have a significantly better chance to beat the Eagles, to beat the Chargers, to beat the Broncos, any of these other better teams, the Ravens, the Lions, etc. But like, you're still looking at the Giants at the level of like, dude, I mean, come on, you gotta be able to beat this team even when you're not fully healthy right now. And maybe the Giants are actually technically really great, and they were just off to a little bit of a slow start. And last week against the Dallas Cowboys was the real Giants team, and Russ is back and he's ready to light it up, right? Then that does change the conclusion a little bit. If the Giants end up, getting second place in the division or something, or competing with the Eagles for the division, then like, okay, it changes a little bit, because we're now kind of looking at the Giants, kind of who they've been these last couple of years, have just been a incredibly poorly run franchise and have just been a mess. And they're not necessarily that same team that they were last year. I mean, they should be significantly better than they were last year, but it's just like, the Kansas City Chiefs are still the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like, whether they're not the exact same team that they've been over the last couple of years doesn't mean that they fall from that much of a cliff here. Not to mention, over the years, everyone just told me is that it's Patrick Mahomes. And so if it's just Patrick Mahomes, well, then you better beat the Giants. So it's just like, I just feel as though a loss would be devastating, Because the only other time that the Chiefs would lose a game like against a team like the Giants would be just one of those random catch games where you're just like, that was just a weird game, and you just throw it. You just throw it to the side. You're like, yeah, whatever. It happens, right? Buffalo Bills losing to the Texans, the Ravens losing to the Raiders. Like you're just like, you know, you're not going to go undefeated. You're always going to lose some random games and lose against a bad team. The Broncos were not a good team when the Broncos beat the Chiefs, and you were just like, wow, how did that happen? You're like, it was just a weird divisional game. What are you going to do about it? And like, and it makes sense. You know, it's just you're just not going to be perfect all the time. But like, you know, when you do start off 0-2, when you do lose to the Chargers and the Eagles week 1 and 2, when you now come up against the Giants, it's like, all right, well, you got to come away with a win here. And anything less than that, and seeing Patrick Mahomes not be great, you'd be like, everyone knows that you need to be great in this moment, that you need to be able to win this game. So coming up short would be like, you are putting your best effort forward. You do recognize the stakes right now. You do understand that starting 0-3 is not good, and yet you still were not able to find a way through it. It would be wildly concerning. And Andy Reid, just from a team and culture perspective, understands that too. So he's just like, you know, he's going to bring his bag as well. And Spags is going to be like, man, this defense better absolutely dominate Russ. Okay, like we better swallow him up. We better be in a game where Patrick Mahomes just has to get a bunch of field goals. He just needs 3 field goals, and we win this game. Like, that's how buttoned up I need this defense to be right now, right? If we're gonna win this game 9-6, then so be it. But like, we're certainly not going to lose this game because of the defensive side of the ball. So I just, you know, I think it's all hands on deck here. I really, really do. But I mean, you know, even in a weird scenario where the Chiefs are not able to right this ship and they just keep losing games, right? Like, let's say a doomsday scenario, they lose this game and then they lose to the Ravens, and they lose to the Lions, all right? And now they just have an awful season, even with Xavier Worthy coming back and Rashee Rice coming back, and they just can't ever get it connected, and they miss the playoffs, and, you know, they win like 6 games or something, right? Like, just something, an absolute disaster doomsday scenario, which again, I'm not predicting. It would actually help them in the long term. I've shared this take in the comment section, but like, it would actually help them in the long term because they would be artificially low in terms of standings, and so they would now be drafting artificially high. They're now drafting as if they're a bad team when they're actually really not. So now you're going to be drafting at a level that a team of the Chiefs' quality typically would not be drafting. So it's almost kind of like being double bounced on a trampoline. Like, you would now be getting a significantly higher draft pick compared to what your actual roster is. And so then it would be like, you know, it could really jumpstart you and really give you a massive boost. I mean, just, you know, to take this example, and this is obviously not going to be for the Chiefs, but take it to the extreme. Let's say the Kansas City Chiefs have a stacked roster. They're unbelievable. They're amazing. They just won the Super Bowl. But then in the offseason, Patrick Mahomes gets injured. And now you have to trot out some other quarterback and he gets injured. And you have to trot out another quarterback and he gets injured. And now you only win 1 game the whole season because your quarterbacks keep getting injured. You just can't find a way through it. And it's just been an absolute disaster. Now you're drafting first overall. You're the number 1 overall pick, and you're actually an amazing team. And now you get to get the best pick in the draft. Like, it massively helps you. I mean, that's why the NFL does it in the way where it's just kind of like, well, this is a really bad team. We want to give them a good pick because then it kind of helps keeps things kind of equal and balanced. And that is why year after year after year after year, we constantly see new teams in the playoffs, teams going from, you know, worst to first, because the NFL is designed in a way that does allow that, you know. It's incredibly beneficial in that regard. And one player, one move can make a pretty big impact sooner rather than later as well. And so, you know, again, you wouldn't get that as extreme of a version of that with the Chiefs right now, but like, you could get a flavor of that. So it'll be interesting though. But I mean, it could all be for naught because the Chiefs win this game. They start to get healthy. They get Rashee Rice back. I mean, it's not really inconceivable to think that they could win 7 of the next 8 games. 8 games in a row. Like we've seen the Chiefs win lots of games. So it's just not hard to imagine that they just got their losses out of the way. They front loaded them, and there you go. So we'll see how this all ends, but still very early. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Is it on board the Chiefs lose to Russ and the Giants? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.